What's up everybody? I just wanted to make a quick video to cover some frequently asked questions that I see all the time on all the forums. And this video particularly is going to be about all things related to sleep during a reboot. So I'll talk about morning wood, wet dreams, using porn to help put you to sleep, and dreaming about porn or dreaming about relapsing. I'm going to share some things that I experienced and also cover some stuff that we've seen other rebooters experience, and just share some advice and hopefully just give you some peace of mind and to let you know that what you're experiencing is normal and to not freak out about it. So yeah, let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is using porn to help put you to sleep and whether or not that's a problem. And I'm not just talking to rebooters, I'm also talking to anyone who thinks this might be a problem. Problems with porn use tend to take a long time to develop, especially, sexual dysfunctions. For me personally, I functioned fine up until the age of about 22, 23, where eventually I got to the point where only porn could give me a boner. I couldn't get an erection with real life girls or using my hand to masturbate or my imagination. Nothing else would do the trick besides porn. And something you'll see common in most rebooters or guys struggling is consistent porn use. So the fact that you're saying you're using porn routinely to help put you to sleep is definitely a red flag for a potential problem. I'm not saying you have one yet, but certainly the potential for one to develop is there. So my advice would be to use other healthy natural things to help you sleep better, like exercise and be real active during the day, meditate or pray, read and learn as much as you can about addiction and how it affects our brain. Another thing you can try is a reboot, which is what this channel is all about, which is just a period of time of going without porn. A lot of guys have reported that they used to have sleep problems, and after giving up porn, once they went through withdrawal, they can sleep fine now. And that's the same for my case. I sleep like a baby now that I'm porn free. And I also can think better, my memory's a little better, I have more motivation. And I feel like a normal functioning human being. Two of the biggest things I did during my reboot were exercise and just reading success stories and learning about addiction. It really helped calm me. And lastly, I just want to say it's all part of the process. You have to embrace the withdrawals of kicking an addiction. And stress and anxiety shooting up and trouble sleeping is definitely something that a lot of rebooters have reported, including me. I had plenty sleepless nights staring at the ceiling for 10 hours wondering if my dick will ever work again. So just know that guys have been there before. I felt the pain, and just know that it gets better. It's all part of the process, and do as much natural healthy things as you can. But don't rely on porn. Don't become, dependent on something you once weren't dependent on, because you can develop a more you scratch, the more you itch situation where, something that once gave you relief is now something that you have to have just to feel normal, and that's a problem. So I hope that you don't choose that route. I hope you go the natural route and stay away from porn. Alright, the next thing I want to talk about is wet dreams. One of the most common questions I get on wet dreams is it normal to have one? And the answer to that is yes, it's completely normal. Guys have always had wet dreams long before internet porn existed, so don't freak out about them. Think of wet dreams as your body's natural way to make sure the pipes are still working. The problem is most of us haven't gone a period of time in our lives without jacking off, so we've never had one. Most rebooters will report that, they've either never had one or they haven't had one in years because they've been fapping the whole time. I went, from age 15 to 23 without having one, and as soon as I started my reboot, within a couple of weeks, I had my first wet dream. And I had them all throughout my reboot. There was one night, where I had two in one night, which is crazy, but just don't worry about them. It's all part of the process. Your body's figuring itself out, and they're natural. The second question I see a lot about wet dreams would be, does a wet dream set you back in the recovery process, or does a wet dream slow down the rebooting process? Physiologically speaking, no one has a clue. But in my opinion, no, they don't. First of all, because they're natural, you can't control them, so don't worry about them. And second of all, you're not reinforcing the behavior, you're not reinforcing in your brain the pathways for seeking and searching for porn. With that said, some rebooters report that, they have an increase in libido, maybe increase in urges a few days after they have a wet dream, which we'd call the chaser effect. And other guys notice a drop in libido, maybe going into a flat line for a few days after a wet dream. Regardless though, I embrace it as just a natural thing and a good sign that my body still functions, and there's nothing wrong with a little skeet in your sleep, so don't worry about it. Okay, the third question about WDs is, do I need to reset my counter when I have a wet dream? No. The only time, in my opinion, you should reset your counter is when you intentionally watch porn. And if you're a rebooter on hard mode, which is, going no orgasm for a period of time, again, I would only reset the O counter if you intentionally had an orgasm. However, with that said, I would, keep track of when you have a wet dream just so you can monitor how you feel in the days after, just for fun. Alright, the last thing about wet dreams I want to talk about is my experience with them during the reboot. I didn't really notice much in the days following a wet dream as far as my libido going up or down, but I did notice I was a little bit more likely to have one if the day before was more stressful than normal, or if I was sexually excited right before falling asleep. I would say on average I had a wet dream about every 2 weeks, and it took me, several weeks into the reboot before I had my first one. So if you haven't had one yet, don't worry about it. I'm sure you will eventually, and again, it's completely normal when you have one, so don't overthink it. Okay, while we're on the topic of dreams, let's talk about dreaming about porn. Is that a relapse, and what does it mean? Real simple, I just want to say that dreams are random. So again, just because you dream about porn, that doesn't mean deep down inside in your heart you really want to watch porn. For instance, I had a dream when I was a little kid of a hairy eyeball chasing me down the stairs, and that in no way meant that my deepest desires was for a fluffy eyeball to chase me down the stairs. It didn't mean anything, it was just random. So just because you dream about porn doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just your brain going through random crap. So don't overthink things, and don't worry about, is a dream about porn the same thing as consciously seeking out porn during the day. It's not. You're not, again, in control, and you're not reinforcing porn pathways where you're consciously seeking and searching for porn. I had tons of dreams like that during my reboot, and I didn't really notice any effect that they had on me, and it's all part of the process. Your brain's going to do its thing while you're sleeping, and you can't control it, so just roll with it. The last thing I want to talk about is morning wood, waking up to an erection. And one of the most common questions I see on this is it normal for a guy not to have morning wood? For a young, healthy guy, no, that's not normal. But for a guy with porn-induced ED or porn addiction, it's extremely common. It happened to me, and it's happened to tons of other guys. The good news is a reboot has been shown to bring it back. And that leads me to the next most common question I see is, how long does it take for your morning wood to come back? And the answer is, it's different for everybody. Some get it back within a couple weeks, some it takes months. For me personally, it was a gradual return, and for the first 3 months I didn't notice much, but around month 4 my morning wood started to come back. And over the first year of my reboot, it slowly got more frequent, and it slowly got harder. Now I'm at the point where I get 100% morning wood, several days a week, and there's been some days when it stuck around for breakfast. Some important things to consider about morning wood is it usually happens during a stage of sleep called REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement, or shortly after that. So if you wake up to an alarm or sound or some other reason, that might explain why you didn't have morning wood that day. And also, some rebooters have reported that they were able to have successful sex before their morning wood came back, and vice versa. Some weren't able to have sex even though they were having morning wood. They just needed more time. That's what happened in my case. So take morning wood as a good sign, a good indicator that your body's changing and you're recovering, but don't let it be the end-all be-all to recovery to where you're just sitting around waiting for you to get your morning wood back. Go out there, get proactive about recovery, pursue the things you want in life, pursue rewiring, and don't just sit around and wait for anything to happen. Alright, so that wraps it up for this video. That's my 2 cents on all things sleep related during a reboot. If you have any more questions, comments, or concerns, leave them below or head over to rebootnation.org. We have a free forum over there where you can make an account, share your story, ask questions, get advice, whatever you need. So yeah, hope the best for y'all. Much love. Alright. Ready? Ready. Alright.